Hercule Poirot and the deadly secret uncovered poison. He rasped, toppling across the Persian rug. In the doorway stood his wife, crimson lips curled, holding a silver fountain pen that dripped one emerald droplet. Upstairs, the bastard son loaded a revolver. In the library, the secretary burned papers. Chapter 1. Expanded to the grandfather clock at Cresswell Manor struck 9, then froze. Sir Reginald Vale clutched his throat, eyes bulging like a landed trout. "Poison!" he rasped, toppling across the Persian rug. In the doorway stood his wife, lips painted crimson, holding a silver fountain pen that dripped a single emerald droplet. Upstairs, the illegitimate son loaded a service revolver. In the library, the secretary burned papers. And in the rose garden, Dr. Shaw smiled at the moon, because the curare had been meant for him. Somewhere, a little grey cell stirred. Enter Hercule Poirot. Clock chimes once. Cut to silence. 45. Chapter 1. The frozen hour. Train wheels on steel. Hiss of steam, newspaper pages flapping. The 0647 from Charing Cross to Dover Priory sliced through the Kentish mist like a silver scalpel. Inside compartment C, Hercule Poirot sat alone, legs crossed, patent leather shoes gleaming. A single shaft of winter sun struck the emerald tie-pin that anchored his dove-grey cravat. On the seat opposite lay the telegram, cream-laid paper, urgent red border, the ink still smelling faintly of violet. He read it for the 7th time, lips moving soundlessly. Stop Sir Reginald Vale, dead stop poison suspected. Stop clock stopped at 9:17, stop come at once, stop Cressida Poirot, folded the paper into a perfect square, then unfolded it again. 17, the number tugged at the edge of memory like a loose thread. 17 minutes past 9. 17 steps from the library door to the grandfather clock. £17 million. Rumoured profit from Vale munitions in the last year of the Great War. He clicked open his Morocco leather notebook and wrote in violet ink that matched the telegram. Curare. South American, rare, silent. No puncture. Impossible. Clock stopped deliberately. Who benefits? The train lurched. The nib scratched a tiny comet across the page. Outside, frost feathers spidered the window. A solitary magpie hopped along the embankment, one for sorrow. Poirot permitted himself the smallest moo of disapproval. Superstition was the refuge of the disordered mind. Sharpton 30. The porter's knock. Tea, sir. Poirot waved him away. Non, merci. But tell me, mon brave, do you recall the 9:17 from Victoria last evening? The porter's eyes widened. Cancelled, sir. Signal failure at Penge. Passengers put on the 9:35. Rich lot, they were. Furs and flasks. One gent swore he'd miss the boat to Calais and shoot the station master. Poirot's moustache twitched. Shoot? With what caliber revolver? Couldn't say, sir. Only saw the bulge in his coat. The porter touched his cap and retreated. Poirot underlined the word boat. Sir Reginald had planned to sail on the midnight packet to Ostend. Munitions conference, secret treaties, the usual dance of death in dinner jackets. Instead, he lay on a slab at Maidstone Mortuary. 10. The compartment door slid open again. Captain Arthur Hastings, pink-cheeked, tweed flapping, tumbled in with 2 suitcases and a golf bag. Poirot! Beastly fog in London! Taxicab took 40 minutes from St. James's. He jumped to the luggage, mopped his brow with a khaki handkerchief, and produced a second telegram. This one crumpled, coffee-stained. Jap wired Scotland Yard's preliminary findings. Thought you'd want it before we reach Cresswell. Poirot took the flimsy. Official stationery, Inspector Japp's impatient scrawl. No external wound stomach contents. Brandy, oysters, traces. Alkaloid, time of death. 21:16, give or take clock stopped. 21:17, all guests accounted for in drawing room. No one left. No one entered impossible crime. Japp Poirot's eyes narrowed to pinpricks. "Give or take," he murmured. "Give or take 1 minute, the minute the clock stopped." He stood smoothing imaginary creases from his overcoat. "Come, Hastings. We change at Tunbridge, for the local to Cresswell Holt. I wish to arrive before the household has finished breakfast. People are unguarded when marmalade is on the table." 3. Platform 3, Tunbridge. A solitary milk churn, steam curling from its lid like a gin. Poirot inhaled. Ozone, coal smoke, wet wool. The branch line train waited. 2 carriages only, paintwork the colour of ox blood. A brass plate on the engine read Thanet Flyer. Poirot's lips curved. "Flyer! She crawls like a wounded tortoise." They climbed aboard. The guard, sideburns magnificent, moustache waxed to bayonet points, blew his whistle. Doors slammed. The train coughed, shuddered, and began its stately progress through hop fields silvered with frost. 3:40. Inside the carriage, a single occupant, a nun in dove-grey habit, rosary clicking. Poirot bowed. "Sir, vous permettez?" She inclined her head, eyes lowered. Hastings, ever gallant, offered barley sugar. She refused with a smile that revealed 1 gold tooth. Poirot's gaze lingered on the tooth. Continental dentistry, Liège perhaps. He filed it away. 4:10. The train rattled over a viaduct. Below, the Medway slid like molten pewter between skeletal willows. Poirot spoke without turning. "Hastings, recite for me the names Lady Cressida placed on the invitation list for last night's dinner." Hastings fished out his pocketbook. 8 for dinner, plus Sir Reginald makes 9. A signalman in a scarlet cap waved a green flag. Hastings peered out. "Level crossing. Look, there's a Rolls-Royce waiting. Silver Ghost, 1924. Lady Cressida's, I'll bet." The car gleamed like a beetle under the weak sun. Behind the wheel, a chauffeur in bottle-green livery touched his peak. 5:30. Cresswell Holt. No. Platform. Merely a gravel siding and a sign painted in cream and black. The guard set down wooden steps. Poirot descended first, cane tapping. The air smelled of wood smoke and wet yew. A church bell tolled 7, slow, mournful. Armistice Day, Poirot remembered. 17 years since the guns ceased. The chauffeur opened the rear door. "Lady Cressida's compliments, sir. She thought you'd prefer to arrive unobserved." Poirot's eyes twinkled. Unobserved? In a silver Rolls-Royce? The English idea of discretion is charming. 6:10. The drive, 3 miles of winding lane flanked by skeletal oaks. Hastings counted telegraph poles. Poirot counted lies. At the summit of Cresswell Rise, the manor appeared. Flint and stone, Jacobean gables, a dozen chimneys exhaling lazy blue ribbons. The drive curved through parkland, where fallow deer lifted their heads, breath pluming. 6:40. The front door opened before the car stopped. Lady Cressida Vale stood on the portico, black velvet, pearls like tiny moons at her throat. Her face was a porcelain mask, but the pulse beating at her temple betrayed her. "Monsieur Poirot, you are punctual." "Death, madame, keeps impeccable time." Judesefn. Inside, the hall smelled of beeswax and chrysanthemums. A grandfather clock, walnut case moon dial ticked solemnly. Its hands read 07:12. Poirot paused. "This is not the clock that stopped." "No," Cressida whispered. "That one is in the library, sealed by Inspector Japp." 20. Footsteps on the staircase. Dr. Quentin Shaw descended, black bag swinging. His eyes were the colour of wet slate. "Poirot, I hoped Scotland Yard would send someone." Decorative. The insult slid off Poirot like water off a swan. "Doctor, you treated Sir Reginald for nervous anxiety, yes?" "Shell shock. The trenches never quite release their prisoners." "And you prescribed?" "Scopolamine, bromide, the usual sedatives." Poirot nodded. Yet curare is not usual. Shaw's smile was thin. Curare is South American. I trained in Vienna. Eschquoit. From the morning room drifted the clink of porcelain. Hastings sniffed. Kedgeree, I'm starving. Poirot raised a finger. First, the library. Chutun 8:15. The library door, sealed with red wax and Japp's signature. Poirot produced a penknife, slit the seal with surgeon's precision. Inside oak panelling, thousands of leather spines, the smell of cigars and old secrets. In the centre stood the clock, tall as a man, face painted with cherubs and Latin mottos, its hands frozen at 9:17. Poirot circled it slowly. Observe, Hastings, the pendulum hangs motionless. Someone opened the case and lifted the weight from its hook. He knelt, magnifying glass to the carpet. A single emerald bead, no larger than a pinhead, glistened among the Wilton pile. Poirot lifted it on the tip of his glove. Curare, distilled, mixed with peppermint oil. 1 droplet under the tongue. Paralysis in 9 minutes, death in 17. 9. Hastings swallowed. But how delivered? Poirot pointed to the desk. Sir Reginald's fountain pen lay uncapped, nib-stained green. Mont Blanc 146, 14-carat gold, custom reservoir. The reservoir has been replaced by a glass ampule. Twist the barrel, click, poison released. Sir Reginald himself administered the dose while signing documents. 9:30. A soft gasp behind them. Miss Evelyn Lemon, typist, spectacles trembling on her nose, stood in the doorway clutching a shorthand notebook. I heard voices. Lady Cressida said not to disturb. Poirot smiled kindly. Mademoiselle, you were taking dictation at 9 o'clock? She nodded. Sir Reginald was signing the new Belgian contract. He always tasted the ink when thinking. He said it helped him concentrate. Poirot's eyes gleamed. Concentration, or conditioned reflex. Pavlov's dog, but with curare. He turned to the clock, opened the case. Inside, the pendulum weight had been replaced by a rolled document sealed with black wax. Poirot unrolled it beneath the green-shaded desk lamp. War Office Contract 917. £10,000. Valve specification reduced 3.2 mm signed R. Vale, 11/11/1917. Hastings read over his shoulder. Good Lord, defective gas mask valves, thousands of men. Exactly, Poirot said softly. Someone wished this contract found. The clock was stopped at 9:17 to point us here. A confession and a justification. 10 foot 50. Footsteps in the corridor. Felix Thorne, secretary, hair slick with macassar, appeared, face blotched with anger. See here, Poirot. You've no right to tamper with evidence. Poirot held up the contract. Monsieur Thorne, you witnessed this forgery? Thorne went the colour of putty. I was in the village posting letters. Poirot sniffed the air. Indigo carbon paper. Yet the village stationer stocks only blue. You never left the manor. 11:20. From the gallery above, a shadow moved. Miles Vale, illegitimate son, eyes red-rimmed, leaned over the balustrade. You want the truth? He shouted. I killed him. I poisoned the ink. Arrest me and be done with it. He raised a service revolver. Hastings lunged. Poirot lifted one finger. Captain Vale, the revolver is unloaded. I watched you check the cylinder in the rose garden at dawn. You wish to protect someone. Who? Fifth. Silence, thick as velvet. Then the slow tick of the grandfather clock as Poirot rehung the weight. The pendulum swung. Tick, tick, tick. 17 seconds between each beat. Poirot faced the assembled household. 5 pale faces in the library doorway. Mesdames et messieurs, the curtain rises on Act 1. By luncheon, I shall know which of you stopped time. By dinner, I shall know why. And before the 11:15 departs tonight, one of you will travel, not to Dover, but to the Old Bailey. He clicked shut his pocket watch. Meanwhile, Captain Hastings, We take kedgeree. A detective functions poorly on an empty stomach. Chapter 2. The Five Who Watched Him Die. The morning room at Cresswell Manor smelled of curry powder and dread. A mahogany table stretched beneath a chandelier draped in black crepe. 5 place settings remained untouched. 5 cups cooled beside 5 fountain pens laid like silver scalpels. Poirot entered first, cane tapping a funeral march. Hastings followed, napkin already tucked into his waistcoat. Lady Cressida stood at the window, silhouette sharp against the white garden. Dr. Shaw buttered toast with the precision of a surgeon. Felix Thorne pretended to read the Times, upside down. Miss Lemon's shorthand notebook trembled in her lap. Miles Vale was absent, locked in the gun-room for his own safety, Japp had said. Poirot surveyed the pens. Mesdames, Messieurs, we begin with a small experiment. He lifted the nearest, a Conway Stewart, marbled green. Lady Cressida, this is yours. She inclined her head. Birthday gift from Reginald. Emerald to match my eyes. Emerald, Poirot repeated softly. He twisted the barrel. Click. A bead of ordinary green ink rolled onto his kid glove. Harmless. He laid it down. Next, Dr. Shaw's pen. Onoto, black vulcanite, doctor's clip. Click. Another bead. Peppermint scent. Shaw's left hand twitched. The toast knife clattered. Steady, doctor, Poirot murmured. Paralysis agitans is progressive, no. Shaw's smile was winter glass. Early stage. My right hand is still useful. Third, Felix Thorne's Mont Blanc, exactly like the murder pen. Click. The bead was indigo. Thorne flushed. Stationer's error. I ordered black. Poirot sniffed. Indigo is the new blue, monsieur. Also the colour of the carbon you forged last night. Fourth, Miss Lemon's humble waterman. Click. Clear water. She blushed. I refill with distilled. Ink stains my cuffs. Poirot paused before the 5th pen. Miles Vale's Army Issue Parker. Trench mud still in the clip. He did not twist it. Captain Vale is absent, yet his pen is present. Curious. Just 140. He clapped once. Maintenant, the reconstruction. At 8:55 p.m. you entered this room for coffee. At 9:02, Sir Reginald joined you, agitated, waving contract 917. He demanded signatures, witnesses to a codicil disinheriting his bastard son. Each of you took a pen, show me. 5 hands reached out like a macabre ballet. Poirot watched the fingers. Lady Cressida's, steady, manicured. Shaw's right, steady, left trembling. Thorne's, ink under the nails. Lemon's, bitten to the quick. 2:10. Hastings whispered, Poirot, the clocks. Every mantle, every bracket, every wrist showed 9:02 frozen. Someone had stopped them all. Poirot smiled. Time is the perfect witness. It cannot lie, but it can be gagged. He strode to the fireplace, lifted the poker, and struck the marble over mantel. A hollow boom, behind the chimney-piece, cavity. Inside, a child's pocket watch, chain snapped, hands at 9:02, engraved on the back to Miles, Armistice 1918, Poirot dangled it. Captain Vale stopped every clock to create confusion. He wished us to believe death came at 9:17. But the coroner says 9:16, give or take, 1 minute, the minute the poison needed to reach the heart. 2:50. Lady Cressida's cup rattled in its saucer. Reginald was alive at 9:15. He signed the codicil, blotted it, then clutched his throat. She demonstrated, elegant fingers to alabaster neck. Poirot's eyes never left her. Describe the blot, madame. Green, like absinthe. 10. Poirot produced the ruined contract from his pocket. The signature R. Vale was eaten away, but the blot remained, a perfect emerald comma. Observe, the ink was already poisoned when Sir Reginald blotted. Someone replaced the blotting paper at dinner. He unfolded a sheet of pink blotting paper, held it to the light. Backwards letters appeared. Must pay for Ypres. 17,000 boys. Curare for conscience. Miss Lemon gasped. That's my blotting pad. I left it on the desk at 8. The 3:40. Poirot turned to her. Mademoiselle, you initial every page you type. Show me last night's shorthand. She opened the notebook with shaking fingers. Page after page of Pitman squiggles, then one page torn out. Poirot held the pad to the firelight. Indented impressions. He read aloud, Dr. S., bring the green pen. R. will sign his own death warrant. Justice for the 17th Battalion. Shaw laughed. Short, bitter. Someone impersonates me rather well. 10. The door burst open. Inspector Japp, bowler hat dripping, strode in with 2 constables. Poirot! Found this in the rose garden. He slapped a glass ampule on the table. Empty. Label in Latin, Curare Purum, 5 cc. Source, Guy's Hospital Dispensary. Japp growled, stolen last month. Signed out to a Dr. Q. Shaw. Shaw rose slowly. Forgeable, Inspector, like everything else in this house. 4:40. Poirot lifted the ampule to his nose. Peppermint again. Doctor, you mask the almond odour of cyanide. Why not curare? Shaw's eyes flickered. Professional habit. Patients dislike medicinal smells. 4:05. End. Hastings tugged Poirot's sleeve. The fountain pens, 5 on the table, but Sir Reginald used a 6th. Poirot beamed. Exactement. The murder pen vanished. Yet here, he opened the coal scuttle, plucked out a silver pen wrapped in a monogrammed handkerchief. R.V. The nib was bent, the reservoir shattered. Hidden in haste. The killer believed coal dust would conceal it. 05:30. He unscrewed the barrel beneath his lens. Inside, a hair-fine glass needle, still wet. Behold, the syringe. One click while Sir Reginald signed. One droplet on the nib. He tasted it. Reflex paralysis began. Lady Cressida swayed. Smelling salts appeared as if by magic. Miss Lemon's reticule. Poirot caught. The scent, ammonia and lavender. He filed it away. Was 6. Japp snapped handcuffs. Dr. Shaw, I arrest you for... Poirot raised a palm. Patience, mon ami. We have means, we have opportunity, but motive? Shell shock victims do not poison for sport. He faced the 5. Last night someone left this room for exactly 4 minutes. Who? Silence. Then the tick of the newly wound clocks, loud as gunshots. 6:30. Poirot produced a railway timetable. The 9:15 to London Bridge stops at Cresswell Holt on signal. Last night it was held 6 minutes. Signal failure. The guard remembers a gentleman in evening dress boarding with a black bag. He looked at Thorne. Your bag, monsieur? Thorne bolted. Japp's constables tackled him across the kedgeree. Curried rice rained like confetti. 07. From Thorne's pocket tumbled a first-class ticket, 9:15, single to Victoria, dated yesterday. Poirot turned it over. On the back, scrawled in green, Meet me platform 3. Bring the clock key. R.V. Poirot's voice was silk. Sir Reginald lured you to the station to pay blackmail, yes? But you returned at 9:11, witnessed by the signalman. 4 minutes to slip upstairs, swap the pens, hide the evidence, except he held up the broken pen. You dropped this in the coal scuttle. Coal dust is unforgiving. Thorne sagged. He was bleeding me dry. 10,000 for a forged ledger. I only meant to frighten him. Replace the ink with peppermint. Someone else filled the reservoir with poison. 40. Poirot's eyes swept the room. Someone else. Someone who knew Thorne would take the blame. Someone who stopped every clock to confuse the time of death. Someone who wrote the note in shorthand only Miss Lemon could read. Someone who scented the curare with peppermint to incriminate the doctor. He paused beneath the chandelier. 5 shadows stretched across the ceiling like accusing fingers. 10. The French windows rattled. Wind or a ghost? Poirot continued. At 9:16, Sir Reginald collapsed. At 9:17, the library clock was stopped by the same hand that started the others at 9:02, a circle. But circles have a centre. He placed the child's pocket watch in the middle of the table. It began to tick backwards. 8:40. Miss Lemon screamed. The shorthand notebook fell open. The missing page, torn out, crumpled, lay beneath her chair. Poirot smoothed it. In Pitman, tell Miles the valves killed father too. Make him watch. 9:17 forever. Mother Lady Cressida's knees buckled. She clutched the tablecloth, cups smashed. Reginald promised the boy a future, then disinherited him for a Belgian contract. I forged the note. I stopped the clocks. Chapter 3. The poison that wasn't there. A single bulb swings above the old wine cellar. Dust motes dance like trench ghosts. Poirot stands in immaculate spats beside a makeshift laboratory. Retorts, pipettes, a brass microscope older than the century. On the slate bench lies Sir Reginald Vale, sheet to the chin, skin marbled violet and gold. Hastings hovers at the foot of the bier, green around the gills. Inspector Japp puffs his pipe, trying not to look. Poirot lifts the sheet with 2 fingers. Regardez. No puncture, no bruise, no injection site. Yet the stomach contents scream curare. He lifts a glass dish. Inside, half an oyster and a green pearl of venom. Japp growls. Coroner says death by respiratory paralysis, 2116, but how did the stuff get in? Poirot's eyes glitter. By the only orifice Sir Reginald opened voluntarily, his mouth. He produces the broken fountain pen, reservoir glittering. Observe the nib, a hair-fine hollow needle, 1 twist, 1 droplet. Sir Reginald tasted ink the way other men taste brandy. Hastings gulps. So he poisoned himself? No. Someone knew the habit and weaponized it. 110. Poirot lifts a silver salver. 5 coffee cups from last night, each with a faint green ring inside the rim. Residue identical. Every guest drank from a poisoned cup, but only Sir Reginald died. Japp splutters. Mass murder. Mass experiment, Poirot corrects. 4 cups held 1/10 lethal dose, enough to paralyze the tongue for 30 seconds. Sir Reginald's cup held 10 times that. The killer needed 4 witnesses, struck dumb at the crucial moment, he demonstrates. He sips from cup number 1. His tongue thickens. He cannot speak. 30 seconds later, he clicks his fingers. Speech returns. Paralysis temporary, terror absolute, the perfect locked room illusion. Schedule 1, 250. Poirot opens a leather folio. War Office Memorandum, 1917, stamped most secret. Contract 9-1 specified gas mask valves. Veiled munitions shaved 3.2 millimeters off the rubber seal. Result, 17,000 casualties at Ypres. The file was supposed to be destroyed. Someone kept a copy. He taps a glass vial labelled Guy's Hospital. Curare Purum. Stolen 6 weeks ago. Signed out to Dr. Q. Shaw. Yet Dr. Shaw's tremor prevents fine work. Someone else prepared the doses. Schedule 220. A soft clink behind the racks. Miss Lemon steps out, spectacles fogged. I came for Sir Reginald's spectacles. He hated to be without them, even now. Poirot's voice is velvet. Mademoiselle, you typed the 1917 memorandum. You kept the carbon. You knew the exact dose required to silence 4 tongues and kill 1 conscience. Why? Tears carve channels through her face powder. Because every night he made me read the casualty lists aloud. 17,000 names. He said it helped him sleep. Judder 250. She opens her notebook. Page after page of shorthand. Names, ranks, dates of death. The last page, a chemist's formula in her own hand. Curare plus peppermint oil, microdose scopolamine. Scopolamine for truth, she whispers. Sir Reginald confessed everything under it. I recorded every word. Then I distilled justice. 203 hint 10. Japp reaches for cuffs. Poirot stops him. Patience. Miss Lemon prepared the poison, yes, but who swapped the cups? He lifts the salver to the light. 4 cups bear faint lipstick, Lady Cressida's crimson. The 5th, Sir Reginald's, bears a perfect thumbprint in green ink. Someone pressed his thumb to the rim while he was paralysed, a signature in poison. 0340, footsteps on the stairs. Lady Cressida descends in a rustle of black taffeta. Thumbprint, how vulgar. She extends her own thumb, stained emerald. I held his hand while he died. A wife's privilege. Poirot bows. Madame, you held the cup to his lips at 21:15. You knew the others were silenced. You whispered the names of the 17,000. Then you pressed his thumb to the rim. A dying man's final contract. Cressida's smile is winter. Proof, monsieur? 4/10. Poirot produces a wax cylinder from his pocket. Edison dictaphone, hidden in the chandelier. Your voice, madame, reciting the dead, clear as Big Ben. He places the cylinder on a portable gramophone. Needle drops. Cressida's voice, icy precise. Private Alfred Higgs, gassed 17th October. Sergeant Thomas Vale, your nephew, 18th October. The needle scratches to silence. We're 4/40. Japp snaps the cuffs. Lady Cressida Vale, I arrest you for... She laughs. Bright, brittle. Arrest? I merely finished what the War Office began. 17,000 ghosts needed a hostess. 5. Poirot lifts the sheet one last time. Sir Reginald's lips are curved in a faint, surprised smile. Poirot closes the staring eyes. Justice, madame, is not vengeance. The little grey cells do not forget, but they do not gloat. 5:20. He turns to Miss Lemon. Mademoiselle, you will testify. She nods, tears falling onto the casualty lists. Just 5:30. Upstairs the clocks strike 9. Every clock, freed from their spell, chimes in perfect unison. 17 pure notes ring through the manor like a funeral bell. Show 5:45. Poirot adjusts his hat. Come, Hastings, the 11:15 waits, and Scotland Yard requires a full confession, but first he pauses at the cellar door. We return the oyster to the sea. He tips the green pearl into a petri dish labelled evidence. It dissolves like a tear. Text 6. Cliffhanger sting. The Bunsen burner flares blue. On the wall, the shadow of a gas mask spreads its tentacles. From the gramophone, a faint whisper, 17, 17, 17. Chapter 4. The Clock That Lied. Cellar door slams. Boot heels ring up stone stairs. Poirot, Hastings, Japp, and a weeping Miss Lemon spill into the entrance hall at 09:19 precisely. Every clock in sight shows 9:19. They have begun to lie again. Poirot halts beneath the great staircase. The clocks are conspirators, he declares. Someone rewound them forward 2 minutes while we were below. 2 minutes is enough to hide a will, burn a letter, or change the course of an inheritance. He snaps his fingers. Japp, guards the front door. Hastings, the telephone. No one leaves, no one rings. A liveried footman appears. Silver tray trembling. Begging your pardon, sir. Lady Cressida asked me to deliver this to the library at 9:30. On the tray, a brass clock key and a sealed envelope addressed to my son. Open at the 11th stroke. Poirot's moustache curls like a cat's tail. 11 strokes, armistice, perfect theatre. He snatches key and envelope, leads the march to the library. The grandfather clock looms, hands frozen at 9:17. Poirot inserts the key. 1 turn, tick, 2, tock. On the 3rd, the pendulum jerks, then swings free. A low groan issues from the walnut case. The entire moondial slides downward, revealing a narrow drawer. Inside, a single sheet of vellum, heavy crest, black border, a fountain pen, emerald reservoir still half full. A brass cog the size of a sixpence, teeth filed smooth. Poirot lifts the vellum to the green-shaded lamp. I, Reginald Vale, being of sound mind though poisoned body, revoke all former wills. To my lawful wife Cressida, nothing. To my secretary Felix Thorne, nothing. To Dr. Quentin Shaw, nothing. To my bastard son, Miles Vale. I leave Cresswell Manor, the Vale munition shares, and the enclosed cog, the only piece that can open Strong Room 17 at the War Office. Let the boy decide whether to bury the truth or blow the valve's scandal sky high. Signed this 11th day of November 1935 at 21:15 in the presence of Death himself. R.V. Hastings whistles. Strong Room 17, same number as the contract. Poirot taps the cog. Filed smooth so no duplicate can ever be cut. A dying man's padlock. He flips the page. On the reverse, scrawled in the same emerald poison ink, P.S. The clocks lie. Trust only the watch I gave Miles on his 17th birthday. Poirot's eyes blaze. Miles's pocket watch, the one that ran backward. Where is the boy? Gunroom door rattles. Miles stumbles out, wrists chafed from cuffs Jap forgot to remove. His army greatcoat is buttoned to the throat, the pocket bulges. Poirot extends a palm. The watch, mon capitaine. Miles hesitates, then produces the tiny silver hunter. Back still engraved. To Miles, Armistice 1918, hands frozen at 9:17. Poirot presses the crown. Click, lid springs. Inside the case, soldered to the movement, a second brass cog, teeth intact, two halves of one key. Miles's voice cracks. Father mailed it to me in Fhodunit, said I'd know when to use it. I thought he meant the estate, not this. Poirot fits the cogs together. They mesh perfectly. Strong Room 17 contains the original valve blueprints, proof that lives were traded for profit. Your father signed his confession in poison, then handed you the power to publish or destroy it. Lady Cressida's laugh floats from the morning room. Jap has her cuffed to a chair. She looks like a black swan in chains. Publish? She sneers. The boy will burn the evidence and keep the fortune. Blood tells. Miles flinches as though slapped. Poirot kneels, eye level. Captain Vale, you stopped the clocks to buy 17 minutes of chaos. You forged your mother's note. But did you swap the poison reservoirs? Miles meets his gaze. No. I only wanted him to feel time stop, like those boys in the gas. I filled every pen with peppermint. Someone else added death. Poirot rises. Someone who knew the cogs existed. Someone who watched Sir Reginald hide the first half in the clock at 20:57, exactly 17 minutes, before the coffee was served. He spins to Miss Lemon. Mademoiselle, you catalogued every hiding place for the insurance inventory. You knew the drawer's secret. Miss Lemon's knees buckle. I only wanted the truth told. Lady Cressida said if the will surfaced, the War Office would hush it up. She ordered me to steal the cog. I refused, so she poisoned the ink herself. Cressida lunges, chains clanking. Liar! You distilled the curare! Poirot lifts both cogs. Silence! The cogs will speak. He strides to the fireplace, tosses them into the flames. Brass glows cherry red, then melts into a single molten tear. Cressida screams. Miles stares, stunned. Poirot dusts his hands. No key, no strong room, no scandal. The truth now belongs to history, and to the 17,000 names Miss Lemon carries in her notebook. He produces the shorthand book, tears out the casualty pages, folds them into Miles's breast pocket. Carry them, mon fils, not as a weapon, but as a wound that never heals. That is penance enough. Jap clears his throat. What about the will? Poirot feeds the vellum to the fire. Poison ink on stolen time, legally worthless. The estate will be settled by the courts, and by whatever conscience remains in this house. The grandfather clock strikes 10. Clear, honest, unafraid. Outside, rooks wheel over frost-rimed yews. Armistice morning, 1935, moving forward at last. Poirot adjusts his Homburg. Come, Hastings. The 11:15 will not wait, and Scotland Yard requires 3 confessions before luncheon. He pauses at the threshold, glances back. One last detail. He lifts the melted brass droplet with fire tongs, drops it into an evidence envelope. A cog that can open nothing, except perhaps a heart. Cliffhanger sting. The clock's pendulum swings past the painted moon. For one heartbeat, the cherub's face becomes a gas mask. 17 silent seconds tick by. Then the hall fills with the scent of peppermint and gunpowder. Chapter 5. The Son's Confession. The gunroom smells of gun oil and wet wool. A single barred window throws a cage of light across the oak floor. Miles Vale sits on an ammunition crate, wrists raw, the melted brass droplet on the table in front of him like a dead star. Poirot stands opposite, gloved hands clasped behind his back. Hastings guards the door. Japp is outside with the constables. The house is sealed tighter than a drum. Poirot speaks first, softly. Captain Vale, the clocks are honest again. The cogs are gone. Your father's last joke is ashes. Now, only one lock remains, your tongue. Open it. Miles lifts his head. His eyes are the colour of trench mud. I loaded the Webley at 20:45, 6 rounds. I meant to shoot him through the heart the moment he signed the codicil. But when I reached the library, the pen was already in his hand. He looked up and smiled, like he was proud of me for once. I couldn't pull the trigger. So I fired into the fireplace instead. The bullet is still in the chimney breast. He opens his fist. 5 cartridges roll across the table, dull brass. The 6th is missing. Poirot nods. Empty revolver for the dramatic confession. Very English, but the curare was not in the revolver. Miles laughs. Short, broken. No. I watched Mother swap the reservoirs at 20:58. She thought I didn't see. She hummed, "Keep the home fires burning" while she did it. I let her. I wanted him frightened before he died. 17 minutes of gasping, same as the boys at Ypres. I am my father's son. Poirot's voice is silk over steel. No, you are your mother's pawn. Tell me the rest. Miles reaches inside his greatcoat, produces a child's exercise book, blue cover, ink blots. He opens it to a page dated 11 November, 1918. A boy's round handwriting. Father says the valves are only 3 millimeters short. Nobody will notice. He gave me this cog and said one day I would understand. I understand now. I hate him. Underneath, in adult copperplate. Tonight, I will make him taste the same air. Mother will help. She promised. Poirot turns the page. The next sheet is a chemist's label glued in place. Curare purum, 20 cc dilute. 110 for temporary paralysis. 1 for silence. Peppermint masks the almond. Miles whispers, Miss Lemon wrote the formula. Mother paid for the curare. I stopped the clocks. We each did our part. Poirot closes the book. 3 murderers, 1 corpse. A perfect triangle. But triangles have a weak corner. Who actually filled the fatal pen? Miles looks at the melted droplet. I thought it was Mother, until I saw her face when he fell. She was surprised. Someone else twisted the last click. A soft knock. Miss Lemon enters, escorted by a constable. Her spectacles are cracked. Her bun has surrendered. She carries a small tin box. Army and Navy Stores, 1917. She places it on the table. Inside, 6 glass ampules, 5 empty, 1 still sealed. Label in her neat typing. For RV. Final dose, do not shake ml. Poirot lifts the sealed ampule. Inside, the liquid is cloudy. Precipitate. Curare degrades in light. This one was never used. Miss Lemon's voice is paper-thin. Lady Cressida ordered 6. I distilled 6. I delivered 5 to her dressing room at 20:30. She returned 4 empty and one cracked. She said the sixth had gone missing. I thought she lied. Poirot turns to Miles. You stole the sixth? Miles shakes his head. I stole the peppermint bottle. Mother said it was for nerves. I swapped it for distilled water. I wanted him awake when he realized what he'd done. Poirot's eyes narrow. Then 4 people handled the poison, and every one of you believed another did the deed. Classic English murder. Death by committee. He lifts the cracked ampule. A hairline fracture runs from neck to shoulder base. Observe, the crack is on the inside. Impossible unless the glass was frozen, then dropped into warm water. Who has access to the darkroom freezer? Hastings gasps. Felix Thorne. He developed his own photographs. He was in the cellar at 2045. Said he needed ice for a headache. Poirot smiles like a cat who has swallowed the cream. Exactement. Mr. Thorne, the embezzler, the forger, the photographer. He froze the ampule, cracked it, poured the contents into the pen reservoir, then returned the empty shell to Lady Cressida's drawer. She never noticed the crack. She believed she held the fatal dose. You, Captain, believed you had diluted it. Miss Lemon believed she had measured it. And Dr. Shaw believed his placebo had been ignored. 4 accomplices, 1 murderer, 0 corpses, until the pen was twisted. The door opens again. Japp marches Thorne in, ink still under his fingernails. Thorne's smirk is gone. His face is the colour of putty. Poirot holds up the exercise book. Your darkroom log, monsieur. 2047, freeze ampule No. 6. 2051, transfer to Mont Blanc Reservoir. 2053, return cracked shell. Signed FT, you initial everything, even murder. Thorne lunges for the table. Japp's handcuffs snap like a gin trap. Poirot continues, relentless. Motive? Sir Reginald discovered your embezzlement. He was about to hand you to the fraud squad at 21 Toucouches. You needed him dead before the codicil was witnessed. You used the family's own hatred as camouflage. Brilliant. Almost. He turns to Miles. You fired your blank shot at 2050. Thorne heard it, knew the house was distracted, slipped upstairs, swapped the pen, and was back in the drawing room by 2059. Alibi perfect, Thorne spits. Prove it! Poirot opens the tin box once more, removes a photographic plate, still wet. On it, frozen in silver halide. Thorne's gloved hand inserting the emerald reservoir. Timestamp burned into the corner. 2052. Self-portrait, Poirot says. You always develop 2 copies. 1 for the album, 1 for insurance. I borrowed the insurance copy from your darkroom at dawn. Chapter 6. The Doctor's Ledger. The Rolls-Royce idles outside Cresswell Holt. Steam curls from the radiator cap like a dying man's breath. Poirot has 1 foot on the running board when Japp sprints from the manor, waving a black leather bag. Poirot! Shaw's medical case. Forgot it in the rush. Something inside you'll want to see before the 11:15 leaves. Poirot's eyes narrow. Dr. Shaw is already in the Black Maria. Why does his bag run after him? He snaps the catches. Inside, stethoscope, morphine vials, a dog-eared ledger bound in red morocco. Gold lettering, nerve clinic, St. Dunstan's hostel for shell shock cases. Poirot flips to 10 November 1935. Patient RV21 Tool, 100 mg scopolamine IM. Confession recorded on wax cylinder numbered 17. Subject admits valve fraud, contract 917. 17,000 casualties. Bribe to War Office $250,000, promises full expose if clinic funding ceases action. Increased dose to 150 mg. Subject now suggests suicide by curare. Refused. Left cylinder in library chandelier. Poirot whistles. Blackmail in reverse. The victim begged for death. The doctor refused. He turns the page. A pressed violet, withered 1917. Underneath, in Shaw's spidery hand, for every valve that failed, 1 violet from Flanders mud. I have 17,000 pressed. One day I will send them all to Westminster. Hastings shudders. 17,000 flowers, that's macabre. Poirot closes the ledger. No, that is memory, but memory can be forged. He lifts a loose sheet tucked inside the back cover. Typed, unsigned. Dr. Shaw, deliver 20 cc curare to Cresswell tonight. Leave in dumbwaiter 2030. Payment, $5,000 in used notes. Plus silence. Fail, and the violets go to the Daily Sketch. R.V. Poirot sniffs the paper. Peppermint oil, same as the poison. Sir Reginald wrote this himself on his own typewriter. He staged his own murder to escape exposure. Japp scratches his head. Then who actually killed him? Poirot's smile is winter sunlight. Everyone, and no one. Come, we have 4 minutes to catch a train, and 1 minute to catch a killer. They sprint, the Thanet flyer hoots, doors slam, the train lurches forward. Inside the first-class carriage, Poirot spreads the evidence like tarot cards. Ledger, Shaw's refusal to kill. Typed note, Sir Reginald's suicide plan, cracked ampule, Thorne's sleight of hand, melted cogs, Miles's destruction of proof, wax cylinder, down 17, still missing. He taps the empty space. The cylinder is the missing voice. Find it, and the dead man speaks. The train rattles over the Medway Viaduct. Below, the river glints like a bayonet. Hastings frowns. Chandelier was smashed. Cylinder could be anywhere. Poirot produces a silk handkerchief, unfolds it. Inside, a shard of crystal and a thumb-sized wax cylinder, scratched but intact. Label, in Shaw's hand, RV Final. He holds it to the window. Sunlight reveals grooves. Recorded at 78 RPM. We need a gramophone. The guard appears. Anything the matter, sir? Poirot beams. Only a small matter of justice. Do you carry a portable phonograph for announcements? The guard grins. Better. Dining car has a decker for passenger morale. They march through 3 swaying carriages. Diners stare. Bacon and eggs forgotten. Poirot commandeers the corner table, sets the cylinder on the green baize turntable. Crank, needle drops, crackle. Then Sir Reginald's voice, drugged slow but unmistakable. Shaw, listen carefully. I have arranged everything. Curare in the pen, peppermint to hide the taste. My wife will twist the barrel. My son will stop the clocks. Thorne will photograph the moment. Lemon will type the confession. You will refuse to help, making you the perfect witness. When I am dead, play this at my funeral. Tell the world I chose death to atone for Ypres. The violets are in the crypt. Scatter them on the cenotaph. Goodbye. Scratch. Silence. The dining car is a tomb. A woman drops her teacup. It shatters like ice. Poirot lifts the needle. Suicide by conspiracy. Sir Reginald orchestrated his own murder and cast every soul in the house as puppet. He even paid Thorne to freeze the ampule so the dose would be lethal. He gave Miles the cogs to destroy, knowing the boy would burn them in rage. He left the ledger for Shaw to guarantee the violets reached London. Hastings whispers, "Then no one is guilty?" Poirot's eyes are steel. Everyone is guilty. Assisted suicide is still murder under English law. They all pulled the trigger. He merely handed them the gun. The train slows for Tonbridge. Poirot pockets the cylinder. At the Old Bailey, Lady Cressida will hang for twisting the barrel. Thorne for preparing the dose. Miles for stopping time. Miss Lemon for distilling death. Dr. Shaw for refusing to stop it. 5 ropes, 1 noose. Japp arrives breathless. Radio from Maidstone. Shaw tried to hang himself in the cells. Left a note. The violets were never enough. He's alive? Barely. Poirot looks out at the hop fields, silver with frost. Then justice will wait. Memory must breathe. The train whistle shrieks. 2 short, 1 long, armistice signal, cliffhanger sting. From Poirot's pocket, the wax cylinder rolls across the table. It stops against a butter knife. Chapter 7. The Violets at Westminster Monday, 18th November, 1935, 10:57 a.m. The cenotaph is a white cliff against a pewter sky. 2 minutes of silence stretch like piano wire. Every head is bowed, every bus, tram and taxi frozen. Only the pigeons dare to move. Poirot stands 3 paces behind the royal dais, black overcoat buttoned to the throat, Homburg in gloved hands. Hastings is beside him, eyes fixed on the wreaths. Jap, in dress uniform, guards the far corner, whistle ready. At 11:20 Big Ben strikes, the silence snaps. A bugle begins the last post. Then, from the crowd, a single violet flutters onto the steps, another, a dozen, 100, 17,000 pressed violets, released from the ledger pages, swirl upward in a purple cyclone. Gasps ripple outward. King Edward lowers his wreath, startled. The Archbishop's prayer falters. Cameras click like machine guns. Poirot's lips barely move. Side B has landed. A boy in a private's greatcoat, Meal's Vale, stands on the empty plinth where the unknown warrior's coffin once lay. He holds the wax cylinder aloft like a grenade. "This is Miles Vale." His voice cracks across the silence. "My father murdered 17,000 men with faulty valves. He staged his own death to confess. Listen!" He slams the cylinder onto a portable gramophone smuggled under his coat. The needle drops. Sir Reginald's drugged baritone booms from the horn. "Valves shaved 3.2 minuetons, 17,000 choking boys. I chose curare so the nation would hear." The crowd surges. Reporters sprint. Policemen hesitate, unsure whether to arrest a ghost. Poirot steps forward, cane tapping marble. He lifts the horn himself, steadying the boy's trembling hand. "Play side B, mon brave." Miles flips the cylinder. His own 17-year-old voice, thin, fierce, cuts through the violet storm. "Tell the world the valves were murder. Tell Dr. Shaw the 17th minute is over." The last post ends. Silence returns, deeper, heavier. Then a woman in the front rank begins to sob. Another. Soon half the crowd is weeping. Poirot raises his voice, calm, carrying. "Messieurs les ministres, here is contract 917. Melted brass. Here is the poison pen, empty. Here is the confession, recorded. The war is over. Let the truth begin." He produces the melted cog droplet on a velvet cushion. A War Office colonel goes white. The Prime Minister, Baldwin himself, steps from the dais, face grey. Miles kneels, places the gramophone at Baldwin's feet. A single violet sticks to the lid. Baldwin lifts it, voice hoarse. "Young man, you have just rewritten history." Miles stands. "No, sir. I have only read the page my father tried to burn." 1,000 flashbulbs explode. Front page headlines write themselves. Poirot turns to leave. Hastings whispers, "What happens now?" "Now?" Poirot watches the violets settle on soldiers' caps, on widows' veils, on the king's polished boots. Now the dead have their parade. He tips his hat to Miles. "Captain Vale, your father wanted 17 minutes of fame. You have given 17,000 names eternity." They walk away through the violet carpet. Behind them, the Archbishop resumes the service, but every prayer now carries a boy's voice. 11:11 a.m. Scotland Yard, Interview Room 3. Dr. Quentin Shaw sits opposite Poirot, wrists bandaged, eyes hollow. On the table, the red ledger, open to the violet page. Shaw's voice is ash. "I refused to kill him. He killed himself to punish me. 17,000 flowers, my penance." Poirot slides a fresh sheet across. "Write the prescription, doctor. 1 dose. Truth. Sign it." Shaw takes the fountain pen, ordinary black ink. He writes, I, Quentin Shaw, prescribe the closure of St. Dunstan's Clinic. All funds to the Valve Victims Trust. Let the violets pay for lungs that never breathed. He signs, pushes the page back. Poirot countersigns. Accepted. The clinic becomes a memorial garden. 17,000 violets, replanted every spring. Shaw's tears fall on the ink, blurring the signature. Poirot closes the ledger. Grief is the only medicine that never runs out. 2:30 p.m. Old Bailey, Court. Lady Cressida, Thorne, Miss Lemon, 3 dock chairs, 3 pale faces. The judge dons the black cap. Poirot enters the witness box, sworn in French. Prosecutor, Monsieur Poirot, who twisted the fatal barrel? Poirot, Sir Reginald Vale twisted it himself, with the willing fingers of 5 accomplices. English law hangs the hand, not the heart, but today the heart hangs itself. He places the wax cylinder on the rail. Play it, my lord. The courtroom gramophone crackles. Sir Reginald's voice fills the rafters. Lady Cressida faints. Thorne vomits into his handkerchief. Miss Lemon begins reciting the 17,000 names under her breath. The judge removes the black cap. Case dismissed. Let the dead man hang alone? 5 p.m. Cresswell Manor, empty, dust sheets over furniture. Miles stands in the library, alone with the grandfather clock, hands at 11 to Grace on his time. He opens the glass face, winds the key 17 turns. The pendulum swings, steady forgiving. He places the brass droplet inside the case. It melts into the wood, leaving a perfect circle. A new moon. 7:00 p.m. Charing Cross, the golden arrow to Paris. Poirot and Hastings settle into their sleeper. A porter delivers a single violet in a silver bud vase. Card. Thank you for the 17th minute. M.V. Poirot pins the violet to his lapel. Hastings asks, will England forgive? Poirot watches London slide past the window. Forgiveness is a violet, mon ami. It grows in mud, smells of heaven, and returns every spring. The train whistle. 2 short, 1 long. Armistice for the living. Cliffhanger sting. In the empty manor, the grandfather clock strikes midnight. On the 12th stroke, the circle of melted brass glows emerald, and a single droplet of green ink rises from the wood, forming the perfect shape of a fountain pen. Chapter 8. The Pen That Writes Tomorrow. Cresswell Manor, 1 year on. The house is no longer a tomb, it is a garden. 17,000 violets carpet the south lawn in perfect regimental rows. A bronze plaque reads, Valve Victims Garden, opened by His Majesty King Edward VIII on the 17th minute of the 11th hour. Poirot stands at the edge, coat unbuttoned, violet in lapel. Hastings, now sporting a small moustache of his own, carries a leather dispatch case. Japp, promoted to superintendent, puffs a pipe beside a marble fountain shaped like a gas mask valve. Water trickles where poison once did. A brass band strikes up Land of Hope and Glory. Miles Vale, Captain's pips polished, steps to the plaque. He is 21 today. Behind him, Dr. Shaw in a bath chair, blanket over knees, eyes bright. Lady Cressida, Thorne, and Miss Lemon are absent. Their sentences commuted to garden maintenance for life. They weed the violets every dawn, silent as nuns. Miles pulls the cord. The Union Jack falls away. 17,000 petals tremble in the breeze. The king raises a silver fountain pen. Mont Blanc, emerald reservoir, nib filed smooth. He signs the visitor's book on a marble plinth. Ink flows violet, not green. The nib is harmless. The reservoir holds only perfume. Cameras flash. The band plays Rule Britannia. Poirot's eyes never leave the pen. 11:11 exactly. The garden clock, restored, moonface smiling, strikes 11. On the 12th stroke, the fountain pen in the king's hand clicks. A single droplet of emerald rolls down the barrel. hangs, falls, lands on the bronze plaque. Where it touches, the word valve dissolves into the word hope. The crowd gasps. The king laughs, delighted. Miracle ink, who arranged this? Miles bows. A gift from the dead, sire. My father's last patent, dissolving pigment triggered by royal saliva. He filed it the week he died. Poirot's moustache twitches. Patent 917B, applied for 10th of November 1935, granted yesterday. He opens the dispatch case. Inside, the original patent, stamped approved, and a second document, thick vellum, black border. Poirot hands it to the king. Read aloud, sire. Edward's voice rings across the violets. I, Reginald Vale, bequeath my remaining fortune to the Valve Victims' Trust, on condition that every 11th of November a British monarch signs the garden book with the same pen that killed me. Let the ink remind the Empire that profit must never outrank breath. Signed in poison, sealed in hope. R.V., the king's eyes mist. He signs again, slowly, deliberately. The emerald droplet spreads into a perfect circle, then vanishes, leaving only violet. Dr. Shaw wheels forward. He lifts a small cedar box. Inside, 17,000 tiny glass vials, each containing one pressed violet. He offers one to the king. Plant this at Buckingham Palace, Chica. Let London bloom with us. Edward takes it, tucks it into his breast pocket. The band strikes God Save the King. 17,000 voices join. Gardeners, veterans, schoolchildren. Even the clouds part. Sunlight strikes the fountain. Water turns to liquid emerald for one heartbeat. 11:17 exactly. The garden clock chimes the 17th minute. Every violet lifts its head. A low hum rises, bees or memory. Poirot whispers to Hastings, "Observe, the pen writes tomorrow. Ink that erases guilt, flowers that outlive empires." Japp wipes his eyes with a large khaki handkerchief. Never thought I'd see a murder weapon knighted. Miles kneels beside Shaw. "Doctor, your clinic." Shaw smiles. First real smile in a year. Rebuilt as a sanatorium. No scopolamine. Only sunlight and violets. The king opens it next spring. Lady Cressida appears at the garden gate. Prison grey dress. Ankles chained by habit rather than iron. She carries a silver tray. One cup. One fountain pen. One emerald droplet. Suspended in jelly. She offers it to Poirot. "Peace offering, monsieur." Jelly dissolves in 17 minutes. Harmless. Poirot bows, accepts. He lifts the cup to the light. Inside the jelly, the droplet spells a single word. Merci. He eats. 17 minutes later, the jelly is gone. The word remains etched on his tongue like a violet aftertaste. Noon. The royal party departs. The band marches away. Only 4 remain among the flowers. Poirot, Hastings, Miles, Shaw. Miles opens the clock case. Inside, the melted brass has crystallized into a perfect nib. He lifts it. It catches the sun, throws green fire across the violets. He offers it to Poirot. "Keep it. The pen that writes tomorrow belongs to the man who reads yesterday." Poirot pins the crystal nib beside the violet in his lapel. It gleams. Emerald, harmless, eternal. Shaw speaks, voice soft. Every spring the violets return. Every autumn they die. But the roots remember. Hastings asks, "Will you stay, Miles?" Miles looks across the regimented rows. "I am the gardener now. 17,000 reasons to stay." He kneels, presses a new violet into the soil. It takes root before their eyes. Poirot tips his hat. "Come, Hastings, the 12:15 to Brussels. They have opened a valve garden at Ypres. We are invited to the first bloom." They walk the gravel path. Behind them, the fountain pen on the plinth clicks once more. By itself. A single violet petal rises from the nib, spirals upward, lands on the bronze plaque. The word hope now reads hope and memory. The garden clock strikes 1. Clear, honest, unafraid. 17,000 violets bow in perfect unison. Cliffhanger sting. In Poirot's pocket, the crystal nib grows warm. It writes, without ink, across his palm. Next case. The train that never arrived. 11:11. 11:11:37. A single ticket, no passenger, and a violet that blooms in snow. Chapter 9. The ghost platform. Mist coils between the rails like trench gas. A single violet grows through the cracked concrete, blooming purple against the grey. Poirot stands alone. Ticket in gloved hand. Cream card, violet watermark, no destination. On the reverse, emerald ink, seat 17, carriage 917 and bring the nib. R.V. Hastings refused to come. Ghost trains, Poirot. I draw the line at punctures in time. So Poirot came alone, crystal nib pinned to his lapel like a medal. 10:57, a whistle, 2 short, 1 long, armistice signal. From the fog rolls a locomotive black as midnight, brass trimmed, funnel crowned with a single violet wreath. Buffer beam, Southern Railway, Vale Munition Works, 1917. The paint is fresh, the coal smoke smells of cordite. Doors open with a hiss, only 1 carriage, 17 gas lamps flicker inside. Conductor, a boy in private's greatcoat, face half shadow, cap badge, 17th Battalion. Ticket, sir. Voice echoes, 17 years old. Poirot boards. Seat 17 faces backward. Opposite, an empty uniform on a hanger. Khaki, gas mask bag, 17 bullet holes. The carriage smells of wet wool and peppermint. 11:04. Big Ben strikes across London. The train lurches. Platform 17 dissolves into violet fog. 11:01. The windows show Flanders, 1918, mud wire, poppies frozen mid-bloom. Shells burst in slow motion, petals of fire. Poirot grips the crystal nib. It burns cold. A voice, everywhere and nowhere. Sir Reginald Vale, clear as a recording. Welcome to the 11:11, monsieur. 17 minutes to Ypres. 17 minutes to rewrite the valves. Choose wisely. The uniform on the hanger moves. A hand, gloved, trembling, reaches out. Dr. Shaw's voice, older, broken. I refused to kill you once. Now I must save you. Sign the new contract. A vellum sheet appears on the table. Blank, except for 1 line. Valve thickness restored to 6.2 meters mm signed. 11/11/1917. Retroactive. Beside it, the emerald fountain pen, reservoir full, nib dripping. Poirot lifts the pen. Retroactive. You would unmake 17,000 deaths. Shaw's shadow leans closer. Time is a ledger. Correct the entry. Correct the war. 11:03. The train slows. Outside, Ypres Station, 1917, roof intact. Clocks at 11:11. On the platform, 17,000 soldiers in perfect ranks, faces young, lungs whole. They salute. Poirot's hand hovers. 1 signature, and the valves never fail. No gas, no violets, no garden, no miles. He sees the boy, Mille, standing at the front, 17 years old, rifle reversed, eyes pleading. 11:05. Poirot lowers the pen. Non, the past is written in blood, not ink. To erase it is to erase them. He snaps the nib from his lapel, drives it into the contract. Crystal meets vellum. A sound like 17,000 rifles cracking at once. The page bursts into violet flame. The soldiers fade. The station crumbles. The train screams. 11:07. Carriage windows show London again, 1937. Waterloo concourse, normal platforms, normal people, but the train does not stop. It plunges into a tunnel that was never there. Darkness. Only the nib glows, emerald, pulsing. Sir Reginald's voice, softer now. You chose memory. Memory is the only valve that never leaks. 11:09. A single gas lamp flares. On the seat opposite, Miles, present-day gardener's hands, violet in buttonhole. He holds the melted brass droplet, now a perfect sphere. Father built the train to tempt you. Every 11th of November it tries again. You are the first to refuse. He places the sphere in Poirot's palm. It is warm, alive. 11:10. The train breaks. Doors open onto platform 17. Real, solid, 1937. A plaque has appeared overnight. Platform 17 closed. 1918, reopened 1937. In memory of the unchanged past, Poirot steps down. The locomotive dissolves into violet steam. The violet in the crack has multiplied, 17 blooms. Miles salutes. Next year it will try again. Will you be here? Poirot pins the brass sphere beside the violet. Every year, mon fils. Some valves must stay broken so the garden can breathe. 11:11. Big Ben strikes. Across London, every clock pauses for 2 minutes. In that silence, 17,000 violets open at once. In window boxes, in parks, in the king's own greenhouse. Petals the exact shade of the ink that never wrote tomorrow. Poirot walks away. Chapter 10. The key in the violet. Poirot kneels, coat brushing dust. The silver key, grown from the crystal nib, fits perfectly. One turn, click, the door sighs open on oiled hinges. Inside, a strong room no architect ever drew. 17 gas mantles hiss emerald light. In the centre, a walnut desk exactly like Cresswell's library. On it, the original contract 917, valves circled in red. Beside it, a Mont Blanc fountain pen, reservoir full, nib dripping violet. A gramophone spins silently. Wax cylinder labelled, play on the 17th minute. RV final. Poirot lowers the needle. Sir Reginald's voice, stronger now, almost amused. Welcome to the engine room of Empire, monsieur. 17 minutes to decide, burn the contract and bury the scandal forever, or leak it and watch Westminster fall. The violets are watching. 10:53. The door seals behind him with a coffin lid thud. 17 brass levers rise from the floor, each stamped with a year. 1914, 1915, 1916, 1938. A plaque reads, pull one lever, 1 year, vanishes, pull all. History restarts at 0:10:55 footsteps. Miles Vale, 22, gardener's hands, eyes older, steps from the shadows. He wears a gas mask bag slung like a postman's satchel. Inside, 17,000 pressed violets and 1 wax cylinder labelled MV Override. Father left 2 keys, he says. Yours opens the door, mine opens the future. He lifts the override cylinder. If I play this, every valve is retroactively fixed. No gas, no garden, no me. 10:57. Poirot studies the levers. Every choice kills someone. Pull 1917 and Ypres never happens. Pull 1938 and this room never exists. Your father built a perfect trap. Miles kneels, touches the violet in the keyhole. It has grown a second bloom overnight. Mother sent me. She weeds the violets at dawn. Today one spoke. He plucks the new bloom. Inside the calyx is a rolled slip. Burn nothing. Plant everything. See 10:59. The gramophone needle lifts. Sir Reginald again. 10 seconds, monsieur. Choose. Poirot lifts the fountain pen. Ink drips. Violet. Alive. He uncaps it. Writes across the contract in one continuous line. The valves failed. The garden remembers the Empire learns signed H. Poirot. 11:11, 11:11, 38, 11:2. Big Ben strikes through the wall, say. The strong room trembles. Every lever glows. Miles places the override cylinder on the desk. He does not play it. Instead, he opens the gas mask bag, tips the violets. 17,000 petals avalanche across the contract, burying the valves, the signatures, the years. 11:03. Poirot pulls no lever. He simply turns the fountain pen upside down. Violet ink pours into the keyhole. The violet drinks it, swells, bursts. Seeds, tiny brass cogs, spill onto the floor. 11:05. The strong room floor cracks. Earth shows beneath, real soil. The violets take root instantly, racing up the walls, across the ceiling. Gas mantles dim to moonlight. 11:07. The desk sinks into the earth. Contract, levers, gramophone, gone. Only the fountain pen remains, nib buried in a new violet. Miles exhales. Father wanted a lever. We gave him a garden. 11:09. The steel door swings open by itself. Outside, the corridor is now a greenhouse. Sunlight pours through a glass roof that was never there. 17,000 violets line the walls in perfect parade order. At the far end, Lady Cressida, Thorn, Miss Lemon, grey dresses, watering cans, faces softened by soil. Cressida curtsies. We heard the click, monsieur. The garden is planted. 11:10. Poirot steps into the light. The silver key has become a living stem. He plucks it. The flower closes, becomes a seed again. He pockets it. 11:11. Big Ben's 11th stroke. Across Britain, every public clock pauses. In every valve garden, London, Ypres, Ottawa, Delhi, a single violet opens at the exact same second. Petals spell, in Morse, truth blooms. In the greenhouse corridor, Dr. Shaw waits in his bath chair, blanket replaced by a gardener's apron. He lifts a small brass plaque. Strong Room 17 now. Garden 17, eternally open. He hangs it on the living wall. Violets curl around the letters. 11:15. Poirot tips his hat to the company. Mesdames, Messieurs, the case is closed. The scene of the crime is now the scene of the cure. He walks the violet aisle. Behind him, Miles locks the greenhouse door with the seed key. It dissolves into soil. 11:17. The final stroke that never comes. Instead, 17,000 bees rise from the blooms, form a perfect crown above the corridor, then scatter to every corner of the empire. Epilogue. 11 November, 1939. Poirot boards the real 11:15 to Brussels. In his buttonhole, one violet, stem threaded through the original melted brass droplet, now polished, now a bead of pure light. On the platform, Miles, 23, captain no longer, waves. Beside him, Cressida, Thorn, Lemon, Shaw, 4 gardeners in civilian clothes. The train pulls out. Through the window, Poirot sees platform 17, real, permanent, painted violet. A new sign, departures, memory arrivals, hope next train, every 11th of November, seat 17 reserved, HP the whistle, 2 short, 1 long, armistice for the future.